The first thing is when you talk about daylight, it's not so much that you design a space and then you see how the light filters into this space. It's more, as you were saying, using the light to form the space. And that's the approach that was used for the manual collection or other museum buildings, where you can really feel those pieces that are molded in relation with the light and the light getting into the building. And you get these amazing atmospheres that one can see also in the GES2 museum in Moscow. But there's also a lot of care being put in terms of daylight and the treatment of light in commercial buildings as well. It's a bit the same approach. If we take the Sharp Place example, from the beginning, the question of daylight was central, especially as regards the experience when you are inside the building. So when we look at the shape of the building, it may seem arbitrary, but we did all the effort in order to maximize the perimeter of the building so that the interior enjoys as much daylight as possible. That's why we have this intricate shape. So in order for the apartments to enjoy as much daylight as possible. And the other element that was central is for the apartments to at least have a double or triple exposure so that you can relate to the exterior. You can experience the nuances of light in different orientations at a certain moment in time. A third element in the equation as regards the daylight, which is designing different types of facades so that the light comes in different ways in a single apartment. So typically in the living rooms, we would find a double skin facade where the exterior skin is made of glazed louvers, single glass, very transparent, installed in a shiplap position and with a gap in between them so that the air can filter through. And then the interior skin, because these louvers act as a balustrade, the interior skin, we can have full height casement windows, wood frame, and when you open those casement windows, which are full height, very generous, and then you really feel the outside, you feel London, you get the light getting filtered through the louvers. It's a very pleasant experience. And also in the other facade of the living room, at 90 degrees, we may find a winter garden where wooden frame sliding doors can get open, and then our living room extends itself naturally into the balcony area, into the winter garden area. And then protecting the winter garden, there's also full height single glazed panels offering very nice views and a lot of daylight. And finally, we have single skin facades, more typically for bedrooms, where you need perhaps a bit less daylight. You still need daylight, but not so much, and you need a bit more intimacy. That single skin facade has aluminum mullions which stick out a bit, and that creates a bit of screening when you look at the facade from an oblique angle. And those windows, they are bottom hinged and they open in. They tilt in, so allowing some air through, bringing daylight, but not so much. And then in a single apartment, you can feel daylight in very different ways. And you can also relate to the outside in very different ways. It's the same attitude or method that you would use also in the design of the roof for a museum. I think that the other example that is interesting in terms of daylight is the Tokyo Marine project, because in Japan, when you build in different places around the world, you see that the culture changes dramatically. And in Japan, the culture for the office space is one where you have enormous floor plates, very deep floor plate. It's unimaginable in France, for instance, and probably in Denmark. So we challenge a bit the client around that enormous depth of the floor plate to see whether they would contemplate other alternatives. And they say no. What they were expecting was what is pretty common in Marunouchi, in the business district, is a central core. And then you have a very big span of 16 meters, 17, and then you have the facade. And that's your office space. And we challenge a bit this approach while respecting their desire, which is, okay, we offset our core so that we liberate the west part of the floor plate in order to provide the best views to the Imperial Gardens, which are to the west of our building. And then we set a patio at the very center of this west area so that we divide that very big depth into, and we bring light down at the very center of the building. So that was one thing in order to get around this problem and to challenge a bit that Japanese approach to the office space. The second one was to use adaptive lighting, so that normally if you have normal lighting, when you are closer to the facade, you have a lot of fluxes, and you have an enormous contrast to the center of the floor plate, where even if you have artificial lighting, it's very dark. And when you get this contrast, then if you are an occupier of this space, you may feel it a bit uncomfortable. So we provide this adaptive lighting that creates an homogeneous lighting throughout the floor plate, that it compensates the difference in luxes that comes from the sunlight. And the other aspect is about the light color, because depending on the time of the day, the color of the sunlight changes. And by being able to adjust also the color of the artificial lighting we are using, we create that continuum between exterior and interior, which makes it much more pleasant for the occupiers that use the space.
The indoor environmental quality.
Yeah.